Have you ever really stopped and wondered what's going on in the ground right under your feet? Like, is it healthy? Is it thriving? Or is it struggling? Well, today we're going to dive in and show you exactly how to become a soil health detective right in your own backyard. I mean, this is the fundamental question for any gardener, any farmer, right? Sure, you can look at your plants for clues, but what if you could just ask the soil itself how it's doing? Well, it turns out you totally can. And believe it or not, the answer might be crawling right under your feet. Yep, these little wrigglers, they give us the first clues. See, they're not just living in the soil, they are tiny, powerful messengers telling us about its overall health.
All right, so let's start with the quickest, most direct way to get a snapshot of what's going on down there. We're going to start by looking for worms.
And this whole idea of worms being the poster child for healthy soil, it's not just a cute phrase, it's for real. These guys are nature's ultimate recyclers. Think about it. They burrow through the dirt, creating these little tunnels that let air and water in. They munch on organic stuff and turn it into super nutrient-rich fertilizer. So yeah, if you see a lot of worms, that's a fantastic sign that you've got an active, fertile ecosystem hard at work.
So, the big question is, how do you find out if your soil has a healthy worm population? Well, you can do this really simple field test that even the pros use. It's easy. First, you just mark out a 1 foot by 1 foot square in some moist soil. Then, you're going to dig down about a foot deep and put all that soil on a tarp. And finally, you just carefully sift through it all and count up every worm you find. It's a super simple, hands-on way to get some real data.
And here's what that process looks like. The key thing to remember is that you're not just digging around randomly. You're taking a standardized sample. This one single cubic foot of soil, it's like a perfect little window into the whole world of organic matter and fertility happening right under the surface. Okay, so you've counted your worms. Now what? What do those numbers actually mean? Well, this chart here gives you a really direct link. If you find, say, 16 or more worms, you are in great shape. That's a high to very high level of organic matter. But if you only find 5 or fewer, or gulp, none at all, that's a crystal clear signal that your soil is seriously lacking the food that worms need to survive. Now, the worm count is a fantastic starting point. It really is, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. If we want a more complete picture, we can use a method called visual soil assessment, or VSA for short, to dig a little deeper. So what if we want to look beyond just the critters living in the soil and really understand the fabric of the soil itself? This is where we go from a quick checkup to a full-blown investigation. And that method I just mentioned, the visual soil assessment, or VSA, this is what the professionals use. But get this, the toolkit for it is so simple. You don't need some fancy high-tech lab. All you need is a spade, a basin, maybe a knife, and a good pair of eyes. And VSA is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a structured way to just look at key things in your soil, like its structure, its porosity, even its color, and then score them based on what you're seeing. It basically turns what feels like a subjective observation into real objective data. And the scoring system is beautifully simple. For each thing you're looking at, you just compare your soil sample to some reference photos and give it a score. 2 points for good, 1 for moderate, or 0 for poor. You add up those scores and boom, you've got a comprehensive soil quality index. Okay, so let's look at a couple of the most important visual clues you'll be looking for. This is where you really start to learn how to read the story that your soil is trying to tell you. First up is soil structure. Now, this isn't just about dirt. It's all about how the little particles of sand, silt, and clay are clumping together. And that arrangement is absolutely critical because it controls literally everything, from how air and water move through it to how easily plant roots can even grow. I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, that's what good structure looks like. It's crumbly, it's full of small, rounded bits. It almost looks like coffee grounds. That's a perfect score of 2. Now look at the right. That's poor structure. It's just big, dense, hard clods all packed together. There's no room for anything to live in there. That's an easy score of 0. And closely related to structure is something called porosity. This is all about the empty space, the little pores and channels between the soil particles. And without those spaces, Roots can't breathe, water can't drain, and nasty gases can build up. So, yeah, it is absolutely essential. And this is such a powerful comparison. Look at the soil on the left. It's just full of pores and channels. You can literally see the space for air, water, and roots to move around. That's a good score, a solid 2. But then you look at the sample on the right. It's just a solid block. It's compacted, it's dense with almost no visible pores. There's no way roots, air, or water can get through that. That is a clear poor score of 0.
Okay, so you've done your tests, you've counted your worms, you've assessed the soil's structure, you basically have your diagnosis. The question is, now what? Let's talk about the cure. And the great thing is that all of these indicators are connected. If you start taking steps to create a better home for worms, you are, by definition, going to improve your soil's structure, its porosity, and its overall health. So how do we roll out the welcome mat for these little guys? Here are the key things you can do. First, feed your soil by top dressing it with compost. Then, protect it with a layer of mulch on the surface. Try to avoid compacting the soil, so no heavy foot traffic. Plant more stuff. Roots are amazing for soil. And when you water, go deep, but don't do it constantly. And finally, a big one, try to avoid synthetic pesticides and fertilizers that can really mess up that delicate soil ecosystem.
And, this thinking isn't just for small gardens. On a much larger scale, practices like conservation tillage, which is basically just a way to disturb the soil as little as possible, they build on these exact same principles. And as this quote from the FAO points out, the long-term effects just keep adding up, creating healthier and more resilient soil year after year after year. So the next time you're outside, just take a moment and look down. With nothing more than a simple spade and what you've learned today, you now have the tools to actually listen to your soil. So the only question left is, what story is your soil waiting to tell you?